Yeah, I think we can. Let me have a look at all the attendee list. I think we pretty much have. I think we pretty much have everyone already. Yeah, I think Laurie. I think we can start. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And the translation's working?
Yes. I believe so.
Yeah, it's ready. It's good to go.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. We feel very fortunate to spend this time with you, and we want to make sure that it's well worth your time to be here. We are going to be able to hear from our Vice President of Market Expansion and Ethics, Dan Whitney. As you all know, the environment within the regulatory environment within the US is consistently changing. And with that, Dan and the ethics team have put together some great training to be able to provide each and every one of you. Okay, so what I'd like to do before Dan gets started with his training is I'd like to introduce you to a few of the members of the ethics team that are joining us on this call. We have our Director of Training who has helped put together this training, and she's worked very hard since her time here at USANA, and that is Amy. Amy, I'll let you introduce yourself really quickly.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you and to have this opportunity to share some new information. We are really working to try to get you guys information about all of our compliance and legal issues, and welcome any feedback you have. I know you work really hard to get that information to your teams and supply them with needed tools. So I'm really happy to see you all and to be here today.
Thanks, Amy. And then we also have our brand new director who is over the Americas and Europe ethics. She just recently joined us, and I'm going to allow Elena to introduce herself.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, everyone. Yes, I am new to USANA, but the truth is I'm not new to the industry. I've been in this field for 31 years, if you can imagine. And I've spent pretty much all of that time in compliance, and I love to talk about compliance. So any of you ever need something to do at night when you can't fall asleep, call me. We'll talk about compliance and I'll get you right back to bed. Nobody likes it as much as I do. But yes, I'm super excited to be here. And you know, I love these trainings. I love any time we have a chance to touch the field and educate and make sure everybody knows what's going on. So super excited to be here with everybody today.
Great. Thanks, Elena. We're excited to have Elena on board. And as you can tell from Elena's excitement, I think the continued education that you guys will receive from the ethics team with Amy and Elena leading that charge, I just think you'll continue to see great trainings and information that will be shared with each one of you to help you as well as your team in building USANA. So today, Dan is going to walk us through the current regulatory environment, income claims. He's going to be providing you some examples and sharing that information with you. So I'm going to turn the time over to our Vice President of Market Expansion and Ethics, Dan Whitney.
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. 大家好吗? It's really, really good to be with you, to see your pictures anyway. But just to spend some time with you, and I hope that this is a helpful training for you. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. So today we are going to talk about how to properly promote the business and the income that can be earned from the business and the lifestyle that you can have from the business. But the first thing we want to talk about that relates to this is really USANA's value of integrity, right? And integrity in regards to talking about the business means that we should talk about it in the right way because it's the right thing to do. We should not be misleading. We should be transparent and talk about the business the right way because it's the right thing to do. Not just because there's a policy, but because it's the right thing to do. And what that's going to do is it's going to help us at USANA attract the right people to the business. We don't want to attract people who are just coming to make quick money and be gone. And we also don't want to attract good people who feel like they were misled and then they decide to leave the company and they share a bad story about their experience because what they were told from someone doesn't match with the experience that they have. So integrity is really going to be the key as you talk about the business. I know most of you on the call, I know that integrity is a value that you live by, and I thank you for that. So just continue to speak about the business in a way that is truthful and transparent because, again, that's the right thing to do. So next, we want to do this training because regulator enforcement is really at an all-time high. We have seen a lot of companies who are receiving penalties or getting lawsuits filed against them because of improper or misleading income and lifestyle claims. And so it's important to know that regulators are watching us. They're watching our industry. They're searching for improper claims that are being made. And they're filing lawsuits against companies, and they're also even going after individual distributors. So some of these cases are citing individual distributors for violations. So I'm not saying that to scare you. I don't want you to be scared or worried. I'm just saying that we need to be careful, and also that the company, that USANA, is going to work closely with you. We're going to be partners with you to kind of understand what regulators are thinking and what regulators are looking for. And if we see something that's concerning, we'll call you and we'll talk to you about it. But know that we're working with you and working together. The other thing to know is that the regulators are looking throughout the whole globe, right? They're searching the internet or social media platforms, which are global. So a claim that's being made in the Philippines or in China could be seen by a regulator in the US, and they could take an issue with the company because of that claim that's in another country. So we want to set a very high standard across all of the USANA countries and all of the USANA markets. What you can see right here, let me go back. This is an actual lawsuit that was filed against the company. This is a screenshot of the actual lawsuit that was filed. And so I won't read everything, but you can see like in the letter E, it says in 2012, there was a recorded phone call where a distributor said, the sky is the limit and there's no ceiling to your income. 2018, they looked at an Instagram post, and the post said, it talked about how much money can be made, and it had these hashtags, right? Hashtag dream car, hashtag Louis Vuitton, hashtag financial freedom. In another one, in a video from 2017, it says the sky is the limit and you can decide what you want to make. There's incredible profit that can be made through infinity. they found a video in 2016 that says you can make anywhere from $200 to $500 or $5,000 to $50,000. The sky is the limit, right? So again, I share this with you not to scare you, but so you know that regulators truly are looking at individual posts and comments that are being made about the business and about the earning opportunity. And so this training is designed to help you so that these claims won't come up, they won't be made, or that there are proper disclaimers for atypical earnings when we're talking about the money that can be made. All right, so what are we talking about? What is this referring to? What's the definition of an income or lifestyle claim? So this is the definition that we want to use. It's any direct or implied claim about the lifestyle or income that can be made from starting a USANA business. Right? So really, anytime you're going to talk about money that can be made from your USANA business, these guidelines need to be considered and possibly use some certain disclaimers that we're going to talk about. But anytime you're talking about the business and the money that there is to be made, which we know is very possible, these are what need to be, these are the rules for those scenarios. Okay, so to help you, we came up with 2 questions. Number 1 is it truthful? So this is really simple, right? Did it really happen? Is it true? If you said, I made $5,000, is that true that you really made $5,000 in the business? If it's not true, then you shouldn't say it, right? That's a pretty easy one. The second one is a little different, and that is it misleading? So think about misleading. Misleading can mean different things for different people. What might be misleading for someone could be normal for someone else. And so what USANA has done is we have searched all the lawsuits, the regulator enforcement, and we've kind of figured out what regulators mean by is it misleading? And so what we want to say is what you're saying what is typical or what a typical person can make? So in regards to typical person, you got to think people join this business for many different reasons. Some people just join because they want to try the product. They just want to see if this is right for them, but they don't have any intention on building a business. And so all those people, when we take the people who are building a business, the people who are just consumers, take all the money that people make, and you look at what the typical person makes, and what we know what a regulator feels the typical person in our industry makes is what we call modest supplemental income. So modest supplemental income is not extravagant. It's not a lot of income, right? This is modest income. This is people who are joining to make some side money. And so when you're talking about the business, it's okay to talk about what somebody can make, that they can make modest or supplemental income. But if you say something that's more than that, if you talk about somebody making more than that, then that is atypical. So it's not typical. And it's going to require that you use a certain disclaimer when you talk about it. So the other thing we know regulators are doing is they are looking at social media, they're looking at advertising, and they're looking at this concept of net impression. So look at the pictures on the left, and then look at the pictures on the right, and you get a different feeling from looking at them, right? The one on the left is very exotic, very lavish. You have a nice car and a mansion in the background, or you have these exotic travel locations. So I would say the one on the right is more of what we want to convey as a company. The net impression and the feeling of the one on the right is about community. It's about work. It's about health. And so as you talk about the business and the opportunity in USANA, we really want you to think about overall, what does it look like I'm saying? Overall, what is the impression that somebody is getting from what I am telling them? And we want to focus it on really a whole lifestyle and not just on luxury and exotic travel and expensive things. So the next thing, we're going to teach you how to properly talk about the business. We want to teach you what you can do. Prior to doing that, we want to talk to you about, just quickly, about things you should not say, things that we know are very concerning to regulators, that regulators are really shutting down companies for saying these kinds of things. And so let's get these things out of the way and not use them, and a lot of our problem will be solved. So these are the words to avoid. These are things that we need to make sure we're not saying. And specifically, so the first one is talking about the business that it's residual income. You know, some people say you do the work once, or you work really hard for 3 to 5 years, and then you never have to work again. You can just only work one time, and then you'll always make money. We need to make sure that it's clear that that's not the case, that individuals have to continue to work, that you don't just work hard once, you have to continue to work hard. And I know this group, especially our Chinese leaders, work the hardest in the business. And so you understand this concept that it takes work. It takes you continuing to work to be successful. And so make sure that we're not saying you only do the work once and then you get to live off that forever. We want to make sure that we're not making any guarantees about income that can be earned. So we shouldn't say, if you join, you will make this much money. If you join, you can make $500 your first week. We need to make sure that we don't make any guarantees about the income that can be made. We need to make sure we avoid things like saying fire your boss or financial freedom, talking about earning 6-figure income. All of those things we know are very serious to regulators, and that they will take action against the company. We also need to make sure that we're not saying that your earnings can be unlimited, right? That you can make as much as you want. There's no limit on what you make. Again, the regulators just have a problem with these things because they're so far out of what is typical, what a normal person can expect, that they don't feel these should be used when talking about the business. And then in addition to that, not only things you say, but also certain pictures or images that you use to promote the business could cause a problem. So like I said, luxury cars and mansions or yachts, just extreme luxury, those types of things should not be used in talking about the business. Okay, so now we know what we cannot do. Let's talk about what you can do and how to do that properly. So we have created some simple guidelines to help you talk about the business. And what we've done is we've created 3 disclaimers. So 3 simple disclaimers that you can use on your social media, on other advertising, when you're doing presentations, that you can use these disclaimers and still talk about the great opportunity there is to earn money, but do so with a disclaimer and in a way that's going to be okay from a regulator perspective. So we will start with social media. Social media, we think this is where most people are doing it. This would include WeChat and sharing moments on WeChat. But as you see here, when you talk about atypical earnings or lifestyle on social media platforms like Facebook or WeChat, then if it's talking about those atypical earnings, we want you to use this disclaimer. So we're sorry we don't have the examples translated yet, but as you see here on this example, this person says, ask me how to stop stressing about your monthly bills, and then hashtag time freedom, hashtag entrepreneur life, hashtag income. So if you think about it, for someone to stop stressing about their monthly bills, they're making a lot of money. They're making good money, more than what's typical, more than just modest supplemental income. So because this is atypical income, it's not typical, it's more than typical, then we need you to use the disclaimer and you can still talk about it. So you can still say it and then use the disclaimer and it will be okay. So that's the first one. Second is something that's used more on, I know more on Instagram and on Facebook, but those are stories. These are posts that just cycle through. They're usually only up for maybe 24 hours and they disappear. And you're kind of limited in the space that you have. So I'm assuming some of you have seen these Facebook stories. David, do they have stories on WeChat? Something similar to stories?
I don't think so. I don't think WeChat has the story function. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it on there when I've used it, but I know some of you do use Facebook and you use that to promote the business. And so if you're going to create a story, what we want you to do is, again, we know there's not a lot of space for the longer disclaimer. And so what we want you to do is use this results not typical, and then use @USANA_income. So if you're talking about atypical earnings or lifestyle from USANA business, then use this disclaimer. And what happens is if somebody clicks on @USANA_income, they're going to be taken to another page on the same platform that has the full disclaimer. So you don't have to write it all out. We try to make it easy for you. You don't have to write it all out. You can just use this link and people who are looking at your content can go then and see the disclaimer. So hopefully that's a good option for you rather than using the whole disclaimer every time, especially on stories where the space is limited. Okay, next is just websites, presentations. I know this group does a lot of presentations and work very hard. And so what we want you to do on a presentation or another type of ad is just use the same disclaimer here. We see this often, so we know you're already doing this, so thank you. But when you have a presentation, you're talking about the business, just put this disclaimer on one of the first slides so that people have an opportunity to read it and they can see what they should be saying. Next is video. So video is very popular now. It's becoming more and more popular. So at the beginning of the video, we just want you to put the disclaimer. So put it for 10 seconds at the beginning and 10 seconds at the end. And then people who are viewing the video will see this disclaimer, and that will help if there are any atypical earnings claims in the training. Next is if you do something live, like a Facebook Live video. Nathan Schooley's really good at it. But if you do something live, if you're just filming, that's fine. But if you decide to then post that video that you just filmed, then we want you to add the disclaimer to the post. Right? So if you're talking again about the business, non-typical earnings, and you decide to post that video, just make sure you add the disclaimer to that post. Okay? And the last one. So the last disclaimer we want you to use, this is on a trip with, I think some of you, with some of you that were actually on the trip with me. So you'll remember this, but this is regarding incentive trips. And the way that the regulators of the industry look at an incentive trip is to say, if I'm a new person joining USANA, what is the likelihood that I'm going to end up on one of these trips? Like, what are the chances of me, what's the percentage or the likelihood of me being able to go on a trip like this, right? And so it's not saying that you paid for this with your USANA money. It's saying, what is the likelihood that a person looking at this will be able to also go on one of these trips? Does that make sense? Okay. So when on incentive trips, what we want you to do, we know we post a lot of times on an incentive trip, and we love that. But what we want you to do is on the first post and on the last post to use this disclaimer here. And again, that's going to tell the person looking at it kind of the percentage or the likelihood that they will be able to also be on a trip like this. If you're using a story, like a Facebook story or an Instagram story while you're on a trip, then we also have this link here, that @USANA_incentive trips. And if somebody clicks on that, it's going to take them to the full disclaimer. So those are the 3 disclaimers: the one for social media and other advertising, the one for stories, that's just the short one, it says results not typical, and then the one for incentive trips. So there's one more area that we want to cover, and that is generic posts. So what happens in this scenario is if you post like USANA opportunity, the USANA business, I love how much money I can make from USANA. So you have post, all about USANA, and then you do a post that does not mention USANA, but it still shows kind of an atypical earnings or an atypical lifestyle that's made from a USANA business. What we're seeing is that a regulator will kind of combine them. They'll look at that net impression idea, right? They'll look at the whole string of your comments in your post, and they'll say, okay, they're talking about USANA, and now they're talking about a really fancy vacation. They're going to connect those and make it seem like what you're saying is USANA business can afford somebody to go on this fancy vacation. Even though you didn't say USANA, they're going to look at it as like the whole context or the whole net impression. And so if you look at this, like USANA post, USANA post, USANA post, and then I'm traveling the world and living the life I've always dreamed of. So no mention of USANA, but again, a regulator may say, basically what you're doing is you're saying USANA allowed you to do this. So it's a little bit tricky because there really is a lot of context that comes into place. And so we're not giving specific guidance on this, but what we're asking you to do is just remember, regulators are going to look at everything you do, not just a specific post. And so we might call you and say, hey, look, we know you didn't say USANA, but we need to make some adjustments to this post because it looks too confusing for people. Okay? So I think that's it. That's it for our guidelines. Again, there's a lot that you can do. We still want you to talk about the business. We want you to talk about the great opportunity that's there for people. We just have to make sure we use the proper disclaimers when you do it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little knowledge check. Not a quiz, it's just a little knowledge check. We want to see if our training is effective. So I can't see anyone's face, so I won't be able to tell, but I'll let you read these and then we can talk about if they're good or not. I'm so sad I don't get to see many of your faces. But let's go through these really quickly. Thank you, Angie. All right, here is the first one. So we're going to say yes or no. Is this okay or not okay? Okay, I can see David. So yeah, building my USANA business using only the best ingredients, health, community excellence. Is this okay? Yes. David's saying yes. Yes. Some other people are saying yes. Yeah, this is great, right? This is talking about the benefits of USANA business. It's focused on values. It's focused on kind of the whole lifestyle. So perfectly okay, no problem. Next. Okay, again, sorry this isn't translated yet, but just reading this in small part, he said, look, shortly after I started my fitness journey, I discovered USANA and it made a huge impact on my health and improved my financial situation. So build your own business, be a part of a great team, right? And then he lists the disclaimer here. So is this okay?
No.
Lucy says no. Yeah, so the thing we want to highlight here is it says it improved my financial situation, right? That is, improving someone's financial situation is more than what a typical person makes. We know what the typical person makes in our disclosure statement. That wouldn't improve someone's financial situation, right? So it's not typical. However, this person does use the disclaimer, right? So this is actually okay because they're using the disclaimer there. Somebody's, they're talking about something that's not typical, but they're using the disclaimer, so it's okay. Just make sure if it's not typical, you use that disclaimer. Okay? All right. Next. Make your dreams a reality. Usana income. Thank you, Usana, for making my wildest dreams come true.
No.
Yeah. Thank you. So no on this one, right?
How about if I say, I did my work, I work very extreme hard than everybody else in the team. So my dream come true. How about add this?
Yeah, good point, Dennis. So I'll cover that. That's a great comment here.
Thank you.
So showing just this picture with no context it's not okay, right? A regulator is going to say that is very extreme, and there's no disclaimer that can fix this. Just the number of people that actually make that much money is so small, it's just misleading. It's telling people you can buy yachts and store them in fancy places, and it's just misleading. So we would call and say, hey, we need to change this post, right? Now, to what you're saying, Dennis, it's a really good point. So we can't use pictures like this, but when you talk about success that you've had in the business, when you talk about the money that can be made, if it's not typical, what you should do is explain the context. You should talk about the amount of work it took.
Yes.
Talk about the investment in time and in energy. I will never forget being in Bora Bora. It's the most beautiful place. The sunset is going and just palm trees, perfect water. And I look over and Dennis is over there doing a training with his team, right? With other teams, with people from China.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this is a guy who has worked for his success. This is somebody who knows that this business takes work. And so it's okay, Dennis and others, to talk about the success you've had, but you need to make sure that you talk also about the amount of work and dedication and investment that it takes to get there.
Listen, I still remember we have very good talk. And it's the same thing, like compliant for the regulation, because you make this stand out as a special person. It's not the regular people can achieve that. So right. you show the difference.
Right. So we still wouldn't want to show this type of picture, but you can show things and talk about the effort that it takes, that it does take a special level of investment to make non-typical money in this business. So very good point. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, it's Ivy. How are you? Hey,
Hi,
I have
Ivy.
a follow-up. Hey, how are you? I have a follow-up question on that. So
Okay.
if we did put in the context to explain how hard and time and to build that, do we still need to put a disclaimer on it too? Or
Yeah.
I think for safety, you better put on that.
Yeah. So Ivy, great question. So even if you talk about the context, if it's not typical, then the disclaimer needs to be used.
Okay, so the guideline is whether it's typical or not.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, to be safe from now on, I'm gonna put this on there.
Yeah. But if it's extreme, then we might say, look, no disclaimer is going to cover that, right? If you say financial freedom, we know that a regulator, that will be a major red flag. They say, even with the disclaimer, nobody's financially free because of this. And so there are some things that we're going to have to just not use because we know that's too big of a red flag for regulators. But yeah, if it's not typical, use the disclaimer. Great question. Okay, next one. I built my health and my career around the products I love. Ask me how to start earning today. Yes? No?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, good. This is okay because they use the disclaimer, right? Career, they say career, I built my career. Career level income is not typical. Most people don't make career level income. So it's not typical, so we need to use the disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's okay. Okay? What about this one? USANA for life, join me. And then the disclaimer is there.
It's perfect, I think.
It's perfect.
For me, because I'm going to do this for life, no matter what.
Yeah. No, that part's good. USANA for life, join me. Perfectly okay. You can definitely say that. We want people to be in for life.
Yeah.
But
The picture.
look at that disclaimer, how small it is, right? It's so small, right?
Oh,
Lucy?
yeah.
So it's so small you can barely read it, and it's kind of gray. It's hard to see. So you just need to make sure the disclaimer is clear, right?
Yeah,
So
this is good.
don't hide the disclaimer, because that can be very difficult. It needs to be transparent and clear, and it should be close to where you make the claim, right? You shouldn't say something here and then put a disclaimer hidden somewhere else. It needs to be very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Ooh.
Join my USANA team. First week check of $500.
No.
Don't wait. Start to make some extra cash now.
No.
Definitely not.
Definitely not, right?
Yeah.
So part of the problem with this is it's talking about a guarantee.
Yeah.
Right? You're saying earn a check, first week check of 500. You're basically guaranteeing somebody, if you join, you're going to make 500 first week. And so we need to make sure we're not making any guarantees and just talking about this as, yeah, you can make money, you can make career level money, but use the disclaimer, right? Okay, this one I really like because we see this type of sharing very often. So this person really talks about their journey, right? I started by taking the products, and then I started focusing on health and putting my passion on more important things. Then it led to a business, to a side hustle, and then it turned into a full-time career after several years of hard work. Right, so now I have this freedom. I'm so grateful about the USANA opportunity. Let me know if you're interested. And then they put the disclaimer.
Right.
So this is good. Okay.
Good. I'm glad you see that. So yeah, again, it's talking about career level income and like a side hustle. So that's not typical. And because it's not typical, then use the disclaimer.
It also mentioned that after several years work,
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good context here to say, hey, it takes time, it takes effort, you're not going to be overnight. And so the more context is there, is the better. So these are all things, again, that we want to show you can do, that there's still a lot of opportunity. Just use the right disclaimer, make sure it's visible, and you can still really effectively talk about the business. And then there are a lot of things that you can do where you don't even need the disclaimer. And we want you to continue to do these things, right? Where you're talking about working with a team or your tribe, you're talking about learning new things and growing, flexibility. You're not saying you don't have to work, it's flexible, right? These are all good things you can continue to talk about. And these do not require a disclaimer. All right, so that's really it. It's really try to simplify this for you and just remind you, but these are just a few things to remember. That one, our values should really drive how you talk about the business, right? More than anything else, it's about values, and it's about doing the right thing and saying the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not just because we have a policy or that you might get in trouble. It's because it's the right thing to do. Second, remember those two questions. Is it truthful and is it misleading? Or what is typical? So if it's not typical, you, as this says, use the disclaimer, right? And then finally, there are some things that we just have to avoid. We know that regulators are looking for these things. We know that they will cause problems for companies, and they have. So words like financial freedom, guarantees, saying no work is required, or just do the work once and never do it again, residual income, those things do cause problems, and we need to avoid them altogether. I guess in summary, again, I just want to thank you, specifically this group of Chinese leaders, because I know you work hard. I know you put in the effort. I know that you talk to people about the business in a way that you're being realistic with them, to say, yeah, you can earn this, but it's going to take work. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to maybe work nights and mornings and help your team and things like that. So you really set the example of showing the context and what is the investment and what is required to build a successful business. So I thank you for that. These, again, are supposed to show you that we are your partner, that we're here to help, that if we see something that we know a regulator is looking at, we're not calling to get you in trouble. We're calling to keep the whole company safe and keep you safe, and that we can continue to have a legacy business because we're doing things the right way and we're following the guidelines that are there. And things are changing. And so we're going to continue to update you. We'll continue to provide training. The next training, what we thought we're going to do is just give a lot of examples, give you more and more examples of what you can do so that you know exactly what you can do. But as always, if you have questions, reach out. Let us know. We have some great staff now. We have some new Chinese speakers on the team that are awesome. And so let us know how we can help you. So that's it. I think we still have a few minutes for questions that we can help answer, but thank you. Thanks for your time.
A question is about the research income. Okay, we think will be used a lot. Okay, and without the direct sales industry, you think residual income represent what kind of business can have a name residual income? If I have a mutual fund saved in a account, so the dividends every year, every month, every quarter give to me, and if I don't take out the money, is this called residual income?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Residual income is a term that used to be used a lot. Even the company used to say residual income.
Yes.
And what happened is it got misinterpreted that you just do the work once and you never do it again, like you said, like a security or something.
Yeah.
Right? So we like to use the word maybe like leveraged income, where you can still benefit from your team, but you have to continue to work. Residual kind of means you do it once and then you're done. So part of what's wrong, Dennis was saying residual, is that does imply you're like a security, that you're a financial investment. Yes, and yes. USANA is not a registered security, right? We're not a registered financial company, so we can't make that claim that, that's right. Look, you just dump your money in and then you don't have to do anything and you're going to see a return. That's a financial security. That's not a direct selling business. So that's why we need to.
I like to change it to leverage income.
Yeah, I like leverage because you can leverage your efforts. You can leverage the efforts of your team and be successful.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. What other questions? Yeah.
Hey, Dan, it's Ivy again. I also have a follow-up question from Dennis' point. If we explain the context, like how hard you work, and then you build up leaders, and you build up the team and all those.
Yeah.
But in the tagline, like, can you tag residual income? Like, would that be okay if you tag it?
Great question, Ivy. And again, USANA used to use that term, but we should not use the term residual going forward. Even with context, the regulators just think that this is a word that implies you only do the work once and then you continue to get paid for it. So again, I would highly recommend you do not use that word. So please do not use residual, but talk about leverage, talk about context. You can still talk about the fact that you get to work with a team and you can continue to benefit on your team's efforts.
Okay.
You can continue to benefit from your team, but we know you're always going to have a sales requirement that you have to meet. You're always going to have a requirement to work with your team. You can never just walk away. If you do, the income drops, right? You all know that.
Yeah.
And no passive income. No passive income either, right?
Right. Residual and passive are viewed the same. That's why I like the term leveraged.
Okay.
I think that better represents it. So great question.
Can you share the English slide on those words that we need to avoid quickly, please? Because you showed the Chinese one. It would be better to have the English one in record as well as a reference. Thank you.
Yeah, and we will post this, both the Chinese and the English. Let me go back just a little bit so I can show those ones. Right here. Yep. So residual, saying no selling required, earn while you sleep. Right? Again, these are things that I think were in the direct selling culture many years ago, but they.
Okay, then this is true. If I have market in Singapore, okay, even in Malaysia or in China, whatever, you must sleep in
earn while you sleep. Yeah,
I sleep in United States. I still make money. That's true. That's a.
Yeah. So what I would say, Dennis, you can say that, but you need to provide some context of I have a team in Singapore that's continuing to work, right? While I'm sleeping. It's just the regulators are here in the US. So in their heads, they're saying, look, you're just saying you earn even though you're not doing anything. But yes, you're right. And you have a very global business. So use the context on that one. Very good. We know that there's also a group in a WeChat group that has all the star diamonds and diamonds on there. So we can share this with that group as well. Any other questions?
And Dan, I have a question.
Yeah.
And on this slide, you showing the checks of earnings, and I understand the reason why we cannot show the checks of the earnings, but we do come across the cases like the associate, they're taking their first check as a kind of souvenir, like $25, $50, and with the amount of the check and have a big impact on this, what to avoid policy, regardless of the value of your check and earning.
Yeah, good question. So, David, the regulators haven't said you cannot show a check regardless of the amount. The regulators have not said that. They didn't say you cannot show checks. We just know when people show checks, it's usually a big amount that is not typical.
Yeah.
Right. So we've just kind of taken a stance. Let's just make it easier and say, don't show checks, because we don't want to say you can show $75, but you can't show 76, right? Or something like that. We don't want to get into what's okay and what's not. So we're just saying, if at all possible, avoid showing a check, because especially if it's not typical, mostly what we see is people showing a bonus check or something like a elite bonus or something like that. And that's never typical. That's always atypical. So I think it's just a good general guideline. If somebody posted a $12 check, it's probably not going to cause any problems. But it's just a better guideline to say, let's avoid showing checks, and makes it easier.
Then all those years, when I show checks, usually I don't show, okay. When I show checks, I always put this. This is a commission check, you understand. Okay, this is my check, not the mean. In the future, you're gonna make more or less than me. So I'm showing the check is I work hard for it, and usually I show with 5 years or 6 years, even 10 years income. I show them every week, and I say, this is the way I make out of USANA business. I put a lot of hard work, and this only show this is durable, and I achieved it because I work hard. And I'm not trying to show you money to impress you, but I will show you the money after I hard work every year. Every week, I will make a commission. And commission could make more or less, depending on different person. So usually if I show the check, I always put the whole content in there.
Yeah. Good comment, Dennis. So I know you do a great job at providing context. I think that, as I said, you're one of the hardest workers I've met. And so you always give the proper context. But we know just in general, people show a check like on social media, and there's really no context. It just says, look how much money I made last week, or you could do this too, right? And a regulator sees that and they just say, no way, that's not typical. Like you just can't do that. And so if you're posting something, if you're like putting something on the internet and it shows a check and a big dollar amount, the regulators are really going to look at that and say, that's just not normal. That's not what people can make. And so if you were sitting down with someone and you had this conversation and you said, I've been successful in this business and this is how I did it. And this is the amount of work it took. And this is my ongoing investment requirements I have to do to keep this up. There's not going to be a problem there. But if you're throwing a check up on the internet where a regulator can see it and there's no context, that will be a major problem for regulators. And we also know, Dennis and others, there's a new video on Netflix. I don't know how many of you watch Netflix, but there's a new video called Unwell, and it's actually undercover footage of meetings with individuals where they're making improper claims about products, mostly about products, but also about the business. And so you might think that this meeting is safe, but really somebody has a recording camera and they're showing it. So again, we just have to be careful because these types of things, this is on Netflix, like the biggest place to go to watch content, and a private recording was done. So it's better just to avoid it, but make sure there's always context there, because they could cut that piece out. They could cut it out where you talk about all the requirements and just say, look, this person showed me their check.
If I can say the name, New Skin had a big issue in China because one of the diamond on the stage forced decline. So somebody on the audience used a camera. So, the China government get them up. So it's a big issue back then, like a couple of years ago. And this is the same situation.
Yeah, same thing. So it's better to be safe and not show checks and give these high dollar, the things on this slide. And again, I hope these examples show you there's still a lot you can do. There's still many things you can talk about the opportunity. Just use the proper disclaimers and context.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all for your time. Again, reach out to us. We're happy to help. We want to be your partners, and we're just so grateful for what you do, that any help we can give is really where we're focusing our efforts. So let us know how we can help. We'll make this training available. If you think about a question later, send it to us. If you write a post later, you're not sure it's okay, send it to us and we can look at it for you. But just more than anything, thank you. Thank you for setting the example for all the other distributors and setting proper expectations for people who are joining the business.
Thank you, Dan. Good
谢谢，谢谢。
Thank you, Dan.